Hello, and welcome to the So You Want to Be a Marine Biologist podcast, where we learn about the ocean, share sea stories, and explore ocean careers. I'm your host, Kara Muzia. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, do you want to help the oceans? Have you considered a career in marine biology, but maybe just aren't sure where to start? Head on over to my website, marinebio.life, and subscribe to my newsletter. When you subscribe, you'll receive a free PDF download where you'll learn the 7 steps to becoming a marine biologist without the degree. Hello, mermaids, pirates, ocean lovers, and land lubbers. Welcome to today's episode. Question for you. What did one tide pool say to the other tide pool? Show me your muscles. Did you hear about the red ship that collided with the blue ship? All the sailors were marooned. As this is being released, we're in the midst of a coronavirus or COVID-19 shutdown here in the States, and I thought a little ocean humor was a great antidote to the zaniness that is currently happening. Plus, as I've mentioned before, I just love corny jokes. In today's episode, I'm chatting with Sam Craven with Reef World Foundation. Sam currently manages the Reef World Field Office in the Philippines. The majority of her time is focused on working with national partners on the implementation of the Green Fins Initiative across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. In this episode, we dive into pursuing a degree in marine biology in England, what it means to be a conservation diver, and what the reefs in Malaysia and the Philippines really look like, and way more. Without further ado, here is Sam. Sam, welcome to the So You Want to Be a Marine Biologist podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So you are a program manager at Reef World and Green Fins. What exactly are these organizations and what do you do within them? Because I hadn't heard of them before I emailed with you, and they're really wonderful organizations and have great missions.
Well, thank you. Well, it's a bit of a tangled web, really. So Green Fins isn't an organization so much as an initiative that promotes environmental standards for scuba diving and snorkeling. And it's a UNEP initiative, but Reef World is a UK charity that's sort of the engine behind Green Fins. So we're UNEP's technical partner, and we're the ones that develop and roll out Green Fins with governments in different countries that have coral reefs that need protecting and large marine tourism industries as well.
Great. And UNEP is United Nations Environmental Protection?
United Nations
UNEP?
Environment Program.
So what is your role within Green Fins?
So as the programs manager at Reef World, it's my role to make sure that when we are rolling out Green Fins, that it's up to standard, it's up to quality, and it's the impacts that we want to achieve, that the work that we do really aligns with our mission and vision, which is to make sustainable diving the social norm. So diving is such a brilliant platform. There's so few divers that you meet that haven't fallen in love with the ocean because they've gone diving and they've been able to see this amazing thing. So it's this incredible tool to increase ocean awareness and people's desire to protect this habitat or these habitats. But of course, by just being humans and being in the water, we're going to have impacts on that habitat that we're all trying to protect. So Green Fins really helps steer people sort of through the operators, through the dive shop staff and instructors, and through the divers to really improve their environmental practices so that we can experience this amazing ecosystem and still be the ones that are championing its protection rather than causing any damage. And one really unique thing about Green Fins is that it's implemented through government. So that would be a very UN type of approach. So our job at the Reef World Foundation is to work with these different governments, train up their staff to be able to work with the dive centers, and essentially they adopt Green Fins as a program within their government, and we provide the support for them to roll out the program up to the international standards.
Very cool. So I want to kind of get into what you look for. What are these standards? I saw on the website there's a 330-point inspection, which I thought was incredible and a lot. So, what are some of these things that you're looking for to make sure that these organizations, these companies are up to the standards that Greenfins is expecting?
Well, Greenfins is based, like everything that Greenfins does, is based around a 15-point code of conduct. So that's for the operator itself, the dive shop, 15 best practices that cover both the day-to-day activities above and below the water. So it could be anything to how they're dealing with their waste, on the boats. Do they have ashtrays to stop cigarettes going into the sea? Are there dive guides taking advantage of the pre-dive briefings and giving environmental content in those briefings, reminders for people not to touch the reef or not to harass marine life? And it's all about preventing stress to the marine environment. So when an assessor, government staff that we've trained, goes into a dive shop, they go on a normal dive or snorkel trip with them, and are basically asking questions and looking around and looking at compliance to the code of conduct. And from that, they use like a weighted system to analyze the risks that are being posed to the environment and go back to the decision maker in the operation and basically walk them through what's going really well according to the code of conduct and the areas for improvement. So Greenfins is really open. It's very, well, in conservation terms, we would call it the soft approach, more education and inspiring and empowering, rather than the hard approach, which tends to be regulation, fines, more of the stick. Greenfins is more of the carrot. So it doesn't matter what environmental standard you're at, as long as you're improving, you stay within the Greenfins system. And that improvement requires everybody that's involved in the dive shop to really get involved. So the manager and the staff themselves to really champion those standards and, protect their office, because eventually that's what matters to them. I mean, we're trying to protect reefs, but also the marine tourism industry is employment for thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world. So how do we protect that livelihood and the other ecosystem services that coral reefs give us?
So you kind of follow back up periodically just to see if everybody's improving and still maintaining those standards.
Yeah, it's an annual process. So the membership's actually free because it gets adopted by government. So they're the ones who are, taking Greenfins on as one of their programs to protect coral reefs. And they might report that to international conventions that are requiring governments to put in protection for coral reefs. So the Aichi biodiversity targets or the Sustainable Development Goals. There's also the International Coral Reef Initiative, or ICRI. So different countries sign up to these international agreements and basically confirm or commit to implementing programs that protect whatever the commitment is asking them to. In this case, we focus on coral reefs. And so the work that they do with Greenfins and Reef World's job is to help them understand the value of that work, what it's connecting to in the international arena, and helping them communicate that back up the food chain.
So does Reef World, and maybe you in that role, reach out to different countries and say, this is something that we offer, you have coral reefs, you have lots of diving, tourism industry, this might behoove you to have in your community? Or is it the other way around, and the countries are seeking that extra level, and it's kind of putting them on, giving them an extra marketing almost tool to do that, and also helps preserve their reefs and their livelihood?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question, because I'd say that it's evolved. So Greenfin started in 2004, and Reef World got involved with it in about 2008, I believe. And so initially, yes, we were bringing Greenfins to countries, but now as it grows, we're in 11 countries. Egypt is the latest country to sort of officially join.
Cool.
We find that more and more it's countries coming to us or members from the diving industry that are asking for Greenfins and then helping to identify which government department would be the right entity to take it on. So we're really seeing a shift in how demand is being placed, and sustainable tourism is becoming a really big theme within the international conservation, sort of marine conservation community. It's becoming one of the pillars for good MPA management and things like that. So we're seeing a shift in the industry and its interest in this.
That's really heartwarming to hear. I like that. Gives you a little hope, right? That countries are actively seeking this extra level of stewardship.
And I think it's important to remember that the marine side of things, institutionally within governments, it's a lot younger than the terrestrial side of things. We've been
Good point.
protecting forests and things that we can relate to as humans, as land-based mammals, a bit more. So I definitely, like, since taking marine biology at uni, I've definitely found it's a much younger industry, which also means that governments have a lot less experience and technical skills within their staff to deal with marine. So we're having to build that capacity as well.
Which brings me to how you got started. As you mentioned, we're land based terrestrial animals. What got you inspired to be a marine biologist or study marine biology?
It's funny because I don't actually count myself as a marine biologist anymore, as someone who
Mm.
studies marine life. I definitely fall under the conservationist category now, I think. And not a lot of people make that distinction, but for me, the ology, the study of, is specific. So to your listeners as well, that there isn't one career when you do marine biology at university or any natural science. You don't have to go into the academic side of things. There's a lot more opportunities out there, especially as, we're saying this marine conservation industry is maturing. So yeah, I did a field trip. So I grew up in Singapore. My dad was working there. And I did a field trip to Malaysia, which is just across the border, when I was 11 years old with a company called Eco Field Trips. And they took us to Tioman Island, and we did like a short natural science, like in situ field course where we went snorkeling and saw mangroves. I think I saw a black tooth reef shark, but that was quite a long time ago, so it could be just the stories that I'm telling myself.
We'll go with it's a black tip. It's a great story.
But apparently we all came back when our parents picked us up. Everyone's like, I want to be a marine biologist. And as I got through teenage years and was back at school in the UK, having to choose a university course, there just was nothing else that really took over that thought. I was looking because I was like, you can't decide when you're 11. That's just ridiculous. So when I was trying to choose my subjects to like set myself up for university, there was nothing else that really took my fancy. So I went and studied marine biology at Plymouth University in the UK.
Why the UK and why Plymouth? I would think that where you were located would be better for marine biology, no?
Well, I'd already relocated to the UK when I was 13,
Okay.
I think. And my dad's British, and as a British citizen, it is a lot more financially viable to go to university in the UK than, say, Australia or the States or some of the other like universities that I had on my horizon.
Economics are important.
Very important. It is really important to take advantage of the opportunities that you do have at your footsteps, I suppose. And in that vein, my dad offered to help me with a master's straight after my bachelor's. So I did applied marine science because I didn't really know what I wanted to do with marine biology. I was like, okay, I'm a marine biologist. What does that mean? Like, I had no idea. So I did a very general master's to try and figure out what the breadth of the field was. It was a pretty expensive lesson in what I didn't want to do. But those are really valuable too. That's a really valuable experience.
Yes, there is almost as much value in learning what you don't like as there is what you do.
If anyone else is thinking about doing like a master's degree or further education on from from a degree. I'd really recommend getting some work experience under your belt first, even if that work is not in like the field that you're studying, even if it's not a marine biology position, just to get some workplace experience. Because I found that I treated the masters as just another year of uni, and I could see the mature students taking a lot more time and effort with it. And having been in the workplace, or started the career, I look back and I think, if I'd known this, or if I'd had this experience, I could have placed that information a lot better. It would have been more valuable to me. I mean, I can't regret it. It's brought me to where I am today, but that's the advice I would give people.
That's great advice. Experience always is a great educator, more so than opening a textbook, and it definitely
So much more so, definitely.
So why did you choose University of Plymouth?
So there's a few universities at the time when I was going off in the UK that do good marine biology degrees: Newcastle, Liverpool, Plymouth, St Andrews. And I went to a few on open days, and my mum was super keen for Plymouth because a marine biologist friend, had recommended it to her. I wanted to go to Newcastle because a lot of my friends from school were going there. But I went down to Plymouth, and it was just blue skies and sunny, and the lecturer that was doing the intro to the course looked really awesome. So I was just sold, even though they were like, it's not sunny all the time. This is not typical. Do not choose Plymouth if you think it's going to be sunny, because it's the UK and it's never that sunny. But it was in the southwest, so it was warmer than where I had been.
Okay.
But in the end, yeah, it was the place. It was by the sea. It was a bit warmer, and I just really liked the lecturers that sort of presented to us.
When did you get dive certified? Was that while you were at Plymouth?
Oh no, I'm a fair weather diver. Sorry, UK divers. I can't deal with that. I learned to dive in Malaysia when I was 16. I had some very supportive parents that were like, if you want to be a marine biologist, you have to be a diver. Well, that's not actually true, I've learned, but it does help.
It does help.
So yeah, I did my open water when I was 16.
In Malaysia.
In Malaysia.
So beautiful coral reefs. What was your first diving experience like? Hey, Kara here. I hear it all the time. How do I become a marine biologist? Or my niece wants to help the ocean. Where does she even start? I hear from students, yes, and also nurses, HR professionals, and other mid-career folks who wonder if they could still make their dream of working with sea turtles or sharks come true, wondering if it's too late to answer the ocean's call. Here's what I've learned after 20 years in the field and hundreds of interviews. There's no straight line, no magic degree, and no gatekeeper. You create the path forward. If this sounds overwhelming and vague, I've created 2 tools to help you stop wondering what if and start moving forward with clarity and purpose. The first is my free guide, Be a Marine Biologist Without the Degree. Over 1,000 people have already downloaded this guide and taken their first step towards ocean impact. Inside, you'll find 7 concrete, doable actions to help you get started, whether you're just exploring or ready to make a change. Then there's the Ocean Blueprint. This is a 30-day self-paced course that helps you build your unique path into ocean science and conservation without quitting your job or going back to school. Inside the Ocean Blueprint, you'll get daily prompts to explore your interests, skills, and next steps, a structure that turns overwhelm into real momentum, and a bonus section to root your work into ocean connection. You don't have to wait for a degree, a perfect plan, or permission. Whether you're wading in or ready to take the deep dive, these tools are here to help you move from dreaming to doing. The ocean called. Are you ready to answer? Links in the show notes and on my website, karagracemuzia.com. I can't wait to see the waves you'll make.
Yeah, beautiful coral reefs. They weren't alien to me. They weren't particularly new. because having grown up there, I'd done a lot of snorkeling and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like being part of the sea, like you're within the 3D, yeah, like aspect of the sea. So that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I look back at my logbook from time to time, like my very first one, and it will be like sea turtle, shark, nudibranch, and I'm like, which ones? What's the species?
Oh, that's funny. You can go back and sit down with your former self and be like, listen, we need to know exactly which
Hmm.
one you saw.
Hmm. You don't think it's important, but future you is particular about species ID. So
Take good notes.
actually, well, yeah, the diving and the career all ties together, of course, because I'm working for a charity that runs a diving initiative. But I did my master's, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, this for me is one of the big faults of the academic system, is that you're not really shown how many different things there are to do. Everyone wants you to stay in academia, to
Mm-hmm.
do a PhD or a postdoc and professorship, and like that's the career ladder. And I don't know if I did my dissertation with another research group that was based in Plymouth, so I had some exposure to what academia was like. And I could see that it worked really well for some people, and that I wasn't so sure about it. So I was a bit lost, really. And I can't say that I'm the only one, and I'm sure heaps of marine biology graduates have been in the same position as well. But I actually managed to get a job with the same field trip company that took me when I was 11 to Malaysia. So I moved back to Singapore and started working as a field biologist for them.
Oh, how cool is that?
Which,
It came full
yeah,
circle.
it was a really nice story. Great marketing ploy.
So what did you do for them?
So we led the school groups. So we led groups
Okay.
of like 11-year-old Sam. A lot of the trips were to Tioman as well, which is nice to go back there. And we'd run like sort of 5-day trips where they go snorkeling, and while we're in the water, we're pointing out the different, phyla, but not calling it phyla for the younger ones. But I had to learn tropical biology, basically, because even though the foundations of science and the ways of thinking and the way ecosystems work are, the foundation is very transferable. I then had to learn all the species,
Mhm.
and not just for the reef, but we also took kids through mini treks into the rainforest and the mangroves, and so it was just really immersive for me. Not just learning the information, but learning how to teach, learning how to control groups, learning how to inspire and empower, but still be an authority figure. Like I got
Mhm.
my shouting voice to control groups and stuff like that. And then, on top of that, the logistics that comes with actually running the field work, getting the buses organized and the ferries organized and the food and dealing with dietary requirements. And, no job is what you think it's going to be. It's often so much more. And,
Mhm.
tying back to what we were saying earlier, that experience is so important. Because if you know the different kinds of fish, like everybody knows that, but if you can manage a project or manage people or prove to your next employer that you've got these skills that really surpass just the technical knowledge of marine biology, then you're in a much better position for your career.
It's a really good point. I think that's true in almost any career, any field that anybody chooses, not just marine biology, right? Like you
Absolutely.
can get any
And
sort of experience or any sort of managerial anything, show some initiative, start a club. It just shows so much.
exactly, because how else can you tell if someone can actually do the grunt work? Someone can actually um, take initiative and run the program well, which is so much more than just knowing biology.
Very good points. So how long did you work for this company? What was the name again?
Eco field trips.
How long
I
did
was there for 4 years, I think.
Okay, so You had a good run back with
I
them.
had a good run, yeah. I learned a lot. And one of the things that we did was talk to kids about conservation issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the point where I was teaching it, and I kind of felt myself wanting to do it a bit more
Mm.
rather than just talk about it. So I took a gap year. So late in my career. Um, I wasn't allowed to take one before uni.
Yeah, you probably got more out of it though by waiting.
And also because it was my career change move,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to have some direction. My parents had moved to the Philippines. My mom's from the Philippines. So by that point they'd moved back here, and um, that was an obvious starting point for me. So I came back and looked for different organizations that I could volunteer for and just again get a feel for what was available to me here. And I started volunteering for the Thresher Shark Research and Conservation Project in Malapascua, which is a little island off the north of Cebu that has a diving industry that revolves around thresher shark sightings. And it's the only place in the world that you can see thresher sharks on a regular basis, because they come up to this underwater shoal to these cleaning stations and get cleaned by cleaner wrasse and moon wrasse. So we'd do 3 dives a day, monitoring the reef, monitoring the sharks, doing like video analysis. And it was just a really, really nice experience, really. Nice to get really involved in a group of people and live that field life.
And this was all volunteer while you're working with the Thresher Sharks.
Yep, that was paid. That was quite expensive actually. But it was like meals and accommodation and all the diving costs, running the boat and the staff and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then following that, I found a company called Zooks. So I was looking for jobs, um, but finding it very difficult, finding it like really hard to pull out these skills that I was talking about earlier, even though I knew I had some. Which were the ones that were relevant? What counts? How do you present yourself? And Zooks is a company that runs like experience programs for early career marine conservationists, whether that's coming out from university or wanting a career shift, having an existing skill set but needing to prove that it works within the conservation context. So you do 2 weeks of like modules and training you on how conservation works, like where does the money come from and why do people choose to do some programs and not others, and yeah, just putting yourself in the mindset of a manager rather than a biologist, as in a natural resource manager.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 weeks you work with green fins and you're trained as an assessor and you support the government to implement green fins. So I mean that was the start of my next rung on the career, I guess. So I did this program and they offered me a job afterwards. It was a great internship, really.
Yeah, that's the optimal thing. You intern and then they offer you a job. That's what
Yep,
everybody hopes for. Wonderful. Where were you for your internship with Zooks? Was that also in the Philippines or did you
that was in the
travel for that?
Philippines. Yeah, further north in a location called Puerto Galera, and so there's quite an established diving industry there. So we did this sort of 2 weeks training, and then we all had to go brush off our stakeholder skills and start working with the diving industry. And everyone also gets a project assigned to them. So you come away knowing exactly the skills that you developed on the program. They give you feedback on, places for improvement, the context, why it's important, to have people skills or to be organized, or feedback on how you dealt with government if we worked with the local government. So it was a really cool experience and a really cool job afterwards to then be the mentor after being the mentee. Zooks is actually Reef World's sister company, so we were the same people. The directors of Reef World, Chloe and JJ, my bosses, are the owners of Zooks, and after a couple of years with Zooks, I then shifted to wear two hats and work for Reef World as well.
So you were also a kinship conservation fellow. How did that weave into with Zooks and Reef World?
I'd had a couple of friends that had done, I mean, there's so many fellowships out there.
Mm.
And especially there's quite a few strong ones for like conservation and some that even marine conservation based. But kinship was more about conservation leadership and the concept of using a market-based approach for conservation. So the people who started the Kinship Foundation basically looked at what's the cost for effecting all the conservation that the world actually needs to happen for us to be sustainable.
Hmm.
And then what are the philanthropic boundaries? Like, so they found that the number of money available for conservation practitioners did not equal the amount needed to implement all the conservation that we need to do. So how do you bridge that gap? And sort of stepping away from the pure science and pure conservation and very charity, get a grant, execute a project mindset. They created a program that helps fellows think about other ways to leverage finances, not like CSR, which is just a one-way company donates philanthropic funds to a cause. But could you get companies to pay to offset their impact? Or one of the big examples was, can downstream users of a river contribute to the upstream users? So if a city could have a water tax that would help farmers in the upstream fence their cows in so that they're maintaining the water quality, all of the natural fertilizer, as it were, isn't running into the water because the cows are kept away because the downstream users have paid for the fences. So thinking up new ways of either making conservation financially viable or covering the costs. And they choose 18 fellows a year, and it comes from like a big range of backgrounds, and you just get to spend a month sort of reflecting on what you're doing and exploring with these other amazing professionals.
So what did you do during your time with the fellows?
I was looking into green fins, so I bought green fins as a project. And
Okay.
the market there is, does green fins membership really add value to the business of the dive operator? Are tourists choosing dive operators because they're green fins members, or they're environmentally aware and conscious and proactive, which more and more we're finding is the case as well. People don't necessarily want to pay for more sustainable products, but they expect them as the baseline.
Which is still an important mentality shift.
Absolutely, I think, and maybe it makes it easier if people are willing to pay, but if we're all just saying, look, this is the standard at which we're supposed to be living, like, do not destroy the thing that you are making money off. Like, why kick a gift horse in the mouth, kind of thing. And I think that's a really important stance as a consumer to take as well.
Yes, absolutely. So you have your own website, and I've been on it, and it's really fun. madasmarinebiologist.com. And the title is fantastic because it's just, I don't know, it's pretty on the nose, actually. So what
I
inspired
took
you
it
to...
from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's the insult that someone throws at someone else. And I just thought, I'll have that, thanks.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. So what inspired you to start your website, and how often are you posting to it?
Oh, not as much as I wished anymore. I started it, God, it must have been 2009, 2010. So I was still at Eco Field Trips. And I've always been into, like, my dad's pretty techie. So I'm quite an early adopter when it comes to things like that. And I think blog platforms had just opened up. Well, then Web 2.0, everyone's talking about it. And I was sort of tinkering around and like the idea of the blog. And naturally what I could blog about was marine life, marine conservation issues. I mean, I was already quite well versed in that at Ecofield Trips. So it just started out as a bit of fun, and more people came asking me questions. So it turned into a bit of an agony aunt column for people who are wanting to be a marine biologist. Um, and I like to push messages of, I don't know, what weird, wonderful things creatures have. Like when evolution goes crazy, basically. Um, I like highlighting those things, and also just more practical advice about what people can do day to day. And then, of course, the career advice as well.
Mm.
People ask questions for that. So Tumblr's been a really nice platform for that. But yeah, people ask some interesting questions.
What's one of the more interesting questions you've gotten?
I like sharks. What do you know about sharks? I'm like, okay, where do we start? I think it's also that, how to say this? It's kind of like seeing the difference in generations, because a lot of the questions are coming from people just about to start university or thinking about it, like they're in high school and they're thinking about it. But people are asking me what universities they should go to. My options are this, this, and this. Which one should I go to? Don't ask a stranger to decide your future. This is how I chose. See if you can do something similar. Do your own research. I don't want to take that process away from people, because that's where you learn the most. So it's kind
Absolutely.
of often holding up a mirror and just going, that's a really good question. Why don't you answer it? And here's some places you can look for some information.
It's a great way to get some introspective thought out of your.
And I think it's important, from really early on to take a bit of ownership. And this is something, I didn't do. I just sort of rolled like a tumbleweed from one thing to the next until Zooks kind of woke me up to the choice of it all. And I think the earlier that people start actively choosing and making informed decisions for themselves, the more successful they're going to be in the long run.
And everything in life.
In everything in life, exactly. I mean, here's the thing. Like, my job, it's in conservation, it's working in diving, it's coral reefs. It's still a job. Like any, and I think the same with any PhD student or professor. Like, it's still a job. Even if it's your dream job, not all aspects of it are dreamy. And there's no job out there that I know where you're just a project scientist or based in the field the whole time and you don't have other responsibilities to deal with that are just not sexy. They're not the things that you think you're going to be doing when you're sat in a lecture room. So being able to accept that as the reality of the conservation sector exists within the real world, and it needs professionals with professional experience and skills, and being able to manage a budget, not just being able to conduct really high quality reef monitoring, for example. I think the earlier you start to seek out and ask for that experience, the better.
You bring up a really good point about it's not what people think, right? Not, you don't spend all day every day out on dive boats diving with coral reefs. So what does your job look like? And I'm sure it changes wildly from day to day, but kind of an overview of a day or two in the life of Sam Craven.
Oh gosh, you're right. It is very different day to day. And the way that our fieldwork runs, we kind of go from like a few weeks maybe in the office day to day to being in the field for 10 days. So it's intense ups and downs in terms of activity. At the end of last year, I was in Timor-Leste doing a scoping trip to see how greenfins could fit in to the industry over there. And so that was a little bit of training potential assessors for the future, seeing if they can pick up the concepts and are they interested in committed to carrying out the work. It was meeting government officials and trying to figure out what their coral reef programs are and if Greenfins fits with that. It was meeting the diving industry and discussing what they perceive the issues are over there, and the organizations that sort of support business growth in this new country. So that's a lot of meetings and sweating into a collared shirt. But then if I'm back at the office, like at home, it's a 9 to 5:30 work day, and you're just kind of catching up on all the admin that it needs to go and do those trips, the follow-up afterwards, making sure that the team's happy with what they're doing, reading reports, providing feedback, and it's all in aid of moving this great big wheel of Greenfins forward. So there's always a strong purpose, but it doesn't not involve as much diving as one might think, or that it used to, because the further you go in your career, the less field work you tend to be.
Very true. That's something that I don't know if everybody thinks about, is when you start off, you probably will be in the field quite a bit because people need field techs. But as you gain more experience and more knowledge and just more managerial know-how and skills, the less you're going to be in the field, because those are very valuable, not in the field.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And I think don't discount as well that for some people, they're going to want that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I find myself getting more and more tired of the travel. I still enjoy it, and it's still amazing to go to different places, but I also am really grateful for my time at home. And just being able to have a bit of a routine, like coming into the mid-30s, I think that has become a bit more important to me than when I first started the career, for sure.
Absolutely. We all change as we get older. Thankfully, your career can as well. So you've traveled quite a bit and you've dove on many different reefs. What do you think is the biggest threat facing our reefs in your observation?
I don't think I can call them my observation. I think we know scientifically, like, the biggest threat are the impacts of climate change.
Is that something that you see out on
So
the reef where you are as well? I mean, do you see coral bleaching on most or all of your dives?
I'd say on most there'll be a patch of white coral, but that doesn't necessarily mean because of temperature
True.
changes. I think coral bleaching comes in waves where we are,
Mm-hmm.
and we've 1 year out of a 3-year bleaching event, which is crazy. It's just insane. I remember the first time I dived during a bleaching event was 2010 in Malaysia, and it was horrific. It was just a city of white. And to know that all of that is really stressed and may not survive, it was a bit rattling. But I think what we've seen and what's becoming more and more apparent through the research is that coral reefs are extremely resilient if we just leave them be. So, one of the big strategies that's being pushed to protect coral reefs from the impacts of climate change is to reduce local threats so that they're more resilient to face the larger scale global threats. I liken it to, like, if you're sick, if you have, I don't know, dengue and an infected cut on your foot and tonsillitis, you're probably not going to be able to recover from that. But what if you were only dealing with dengue? Then, your chance of survival is a lot higher. So that's really the focus of what Greenfins is trying to do, recognizing that as much of an awareness raising tool as diving and snorkeling is, it's also creating impacts that are easily alleviated. So if we can reduce the amount of pollutants going into the sea from washing wetsuits and rental equipment, if we can stop as much as possible people from touching the reef whether that's on purpose or accidentally with a fin brush. All of these like micro stresses all add to the greater stress that a reef is facing. And it's no surprise really that the reefs that have the fewest or the less like human activity around them are the ones that recover fastest from coral bleaching events. So, I mean, I think we've got to just recognize Mother Nature is incredible in the way that these ecosystems can survive, but not with the huge additional weight that sort of anthropogenic impacts put on them. So if we can alleviate those a little bit, then, you know, maybe ocean acidification, coral bleaching, trash, overfishing, all these things that are much bigger than our individual selves, you know, they can be a bit more resilient to that if we control, each of us, what we subject these reefs to.
Mm-hmm. A couple more questions before we wrap it up here.
Sure.
So I have two favorite questions left. What is your favorite field story or stories to tell? And this could be the best day in the field, everything went right, you had just, pristine, beautiful coral reefs, amazing vids, and saw the coolest creatures. Or it could be the opposite. Everything went wrong and I'm laughing about it now, but at the time it wasn't very funny.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm touching wood. I don't think I've had anything where everything has gone wrong.
Okay.
I hope that's because of my organization skills, but it could also just be luck. And I don't know if I have like a favorite field experience. It's more like at certain times when you're training, whether it was the Zooks volunteers or the government when we're training them for greenfins, when at the end of the training, like, you've all bonded and it's gone really well and they're super pumped to, start implementing greenfins or really picked up on something, have had a shift, and that's because of our team and the training that they've been given. That's a really warm and fuzzy feeling for me. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy working with the network that we have, the people that join greenfins in all the different countries. I just get so much inspiration from them. I think maybe the best dive on field work, I think I'm going to say Palau, when I managed to do a non-work dive sort of in the time off before traveling back, and actually got the time to sort of absorb the expanse of the reef there and how healthy it was, and to sort of accept the slap in the face that my baseline had shifted, because what I would think of a healthy reef, say in the Philippines or Malaysia, didn't even scratch on what I saw in Palau. And I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten that reefs are supposed to be noisy, full of, everything bumping, scratching, eating. I forgot what a reef was like, with heaps of, predators on it, big adult-sized groupers. You never see that around here. Or sharks. Yeah, it was pretty awe-inspiring. And to know that even that is an impacted reef was quite a wake-up call of like, okay, take note of this, because all our baselines of what is healthy has shifted in the last 20 years, I think.
So really illustrative stories. Makes me want to go dive in Palau as well.
It's pretty cool.
One of my other favorite questions to ask is what your favorite marine creature is, but it's listed on the Reef World website, and it's listed as the harlequin shrimp, which is a really cool creature. So why is that your favorite?
I think because I had never seen it. I saw it last year, actually, for the first time.
Was it your favorite creature before you saw it?
I think so. When I learned to dive when I was 16, but it was a few years before I really got into it as a sort of a sport. And I started taking photos and IDing those creatures to sort of beef up my ID skills. And so the macro stuff, all the little critters that you find on muck dives and things like that, they became the most interesting for me, I think, because of the challenge to try and find them. And of course, when I never saw the harlequin shrimp, I'd always either missed it or it wasn't there. If someone knew it was there, it became that elusive thing that was my favorite thing that I wanted to see. Also, they're just so shiny, and they're like tiny little shrimp, and they eat, like, they tear the arms off starfish. I just think it's quite incredible. So for me, it's a toss up between like the harlequin shrimp, and then I'm just a huge nudibranch fan. I just think they're really cool. To sort of evolve away from a shell that mollusks typically have to being toxic and poisonous to eat, or sequestering stinging cells from cnidarians and then putting them in your gills. It's just, biology is really crazy. Like it's the kind of thing that reminds me why I got into this work in the first place, and that was curiosity about nature and in the sea, that being like even more strange. So yeah, harlequin shrimp or nudibranchs.
Very otherworldly creatures and beautiful.
Except that they're in our world.
Right?
I think that's right. That's the thing that people don't recognize. And even those of us who have been working in it, we're still in awe of it. And yet it is in our world. It does exist. And
Absolutely.
yeah, when you think about like Alien being based off of deep sea creatures and things like that, we're looking at it otherworldly, but actually it's part of our world, and we've got ways to protect them.
Very true. Which brings us to the conservation ask. So we kind of chatted earlier via email about it. What do you have for the audience?
I think whether you are a marine biology student or you're wanting to go, like if that's why you're listening to this podcast, I just remind everyone that they're also consumers and that you can put your money where your mouth is. And I think more than anything, my experience has shown me that a market will respond to a consumer demand. So whether that's only choosing to dive with Greenfins members from now on, that would be great. Thank you, guys. Or whether it's avoiding that snack because it's single-use plastic and that one is sort of free, not wrapped, or making sure that the companies that you're buying from have sustainability in mind. Look into the websites, ask people for this information, because the more of us that ask for it or demand it, the more it's going to become apparent. I mean, just look at how even the way that we eat is changing. More and more plant-based foods are coming out. More and more companies are like really focusing on that market and getting those consumers. And I think we can do the same with everything that we do. Like, do you really need to participate in Black Friday? Do you need all those things? Because think about the chain of production, where it's come from, natural resources, everything it's taken to ship all these things around the world. Like, we're asking a lot from the world at the moment. And I think as a consumer, we can ask more carefully.
That's a great point and a great ask. And to also think, before I buy anything, or if I'm considering something, what's the end life of it, and try to make it more circular, as we realize that recycling isn't as widely done and available as previously thought.
Exactly. And in the same vein, if that's going to be my ask, my other ask would be kind to yourselves. Don't beat yourself up if you haven't been able to stick to those values completely, because you can't be perfect in this world. There's too much choice out there. So make a decision, but give yourself a break and just keep trying at it, rather than saying, I failed at being a sustainable consumer, I'm going to give up. do whatever you can. Right. And if that's not the day for it, okay, but you've got the next day and the next day.
Absolutely.
So that would be my double ask, is to do it, but not beat yourself up if you fall short. just to keep trying.
Perfect. If listeners want to find you, where is the best place to get a hold of you?
I think Instagram or Twitter, probably.
Okay.
I think Twitter's Mad as a Marine Bio and Instagram's Mad as a Marine Biologist. And then on Tumblr, that's the blog. That's madasmarinebiologist.tumblr.com.
Perfect. I'll put a link to all of that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. And you can check out greenfins.net if you're looking for an environmentally conscious dive or snorkel operator.
Worldwide.
Worldwide, 12 countries. Well, 11, 12 and 13 coming up this year, hopefully.
That's exciting. Very cool. Well, I'll put a link to all of that and everything we chatted about in the show notes. Sam, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This was lovely chatting with you.
Cara, thank you for having me. Really nice to chat with you.
Hey, one more thing. Do you want to dive more into the ocean and marine biology? Need a little guidance on ocean conservation? Head on over to marinebio.life/resources. We've got book recommendations, job posting pages, conference suggestions, and ocean-friendly products. All recommendations have been personally vetted by me, and I will continue to add to the collection as I come across cool things to share. Head on over to marinebio.life/resources to learn more. See you over there. Thank you for listening to today's show. I'd love to hear any insight you've gleaned. Leave a comment in the show notes or send me an email over at marinebio.life. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a review and of course, share with your friends. If you want more resources for ocean news, including conservation topics and careers, plus personal insight from me that I just don't share anywhere else, join me at marinebio.life and sign up for email updates. Keep after your dreams and making waves in your community. One person can make a difference. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the So You Want to Be a Marine Biologist podcast.